What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 40 of Bet Parks Presents Stick to Hockey Live. The one and only Martin Biron is going to join us in just a couple minutes. The former Flyers goaltender, former Rangers goaltender, former Buffalo Sabres goaltender, and current analyst for the Buffalo Sabres is going to join us to talk about tonight's game, talk about rebuild, talk about Carter Hart, talk about a number of different topics. And we always love and having Marty on. He is fantastic. Great guy and great communicator as well. So he'll join us in just a minute. Let me tell you about Bet Parks before we get into last night's game. Bet Parks casino and sportsbook app, it is fantastic. It's right in the palm of your hand. It's your phone. It travels with you. Easy to use, easy to navigate, easy to set up an account, easy deposit method, fast payouts, you name it. It's all there. You can bet everything from same-game parlays, live in-game betting, player performances, first score, exact score, over-unders on rushing yards, passing yards, points in hoops, college, pro hoops, NFL, you name it, hockey, anything going on in the world of sport and more. So check it out. Get the Bet Parks app. And right now, all Bet Parks users, by using the promo code JASON750, JASON 750, that'll get you a risk-free bet up to $750. Not a little $250 or $500. How about $750? Terms and conditions do apply. So download the Bet Parks app today. You do need to be over 21 and present in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also brought to you by our friends at Conquerville Subaru. Fantastic dealership that I've been with for years and years. My son is now over 16 and keeps going, Dad, let's go to Conquerville. Not quite there yet, buddy. You got to get the permit and do the whole thing. But anyway, Conquerville Subaru, fantastic. They were the first Subaru Nation Love Promise Dealer of the Year winner back in 2015. And they continue to do great work in the communities as they've done for so many years. 8 years supporting Nemours Children's Hospital of Delaware. 15 classrooms at Marcus Hook Elementary School that they've adopted. They donate $500 for the teachers to pick up classroom supplies. They continue to donate thousands of coats to La Humanidad in Hispania in Kennett Square. They've done that for 10 years and continue that to this year. It's New Year's here. It's a great time to get down there. Check out the new Conquerville Subaru dealership, the new Conquerville Subaru models, the 2023s, the certified pre-owned inventory. Take a test drive. You're going to love it. Plus a great service department where you get a free car wash with every visit. Visit ConquervilleSubaru.com online and get all the details there. Also, the great showroom on Route 202 in Glen Mills. And remember that Concordville cares. All right, before we get to Marty Biron, who's going to join us in just a moment. Game last night, Flyers and Leafs. Flyers lost 6-2 in the game. Obviously, the big storyline to come out of the game is that Tony DeAngelo played the first period, 7 minutes and 5 seconds total in the game, one shift in the second, and then didn't play another shift in the game. First of all, I love the way that Tony responded to it after the game when he met with the media, saying he wasn't nearly good enough. It was unacceptable. Said the only good play he was going to make was the one pass that ended up rolling off his stick and ended up in the back of the net. But very honest about his performance, and said it's not the last time I'm going to play bad. It's probably the last time I'm not going to. It's not the last time I'm going to be sat down. But that it was unacceptable, and he was asked, "Did you agree with the coach's decision?" And said basically a player's never going to agree with getting sat down, but he does recognize that he had a poor night and puck management was a problem, and I like the way he handled it. Is he back in the lineup tonight? I would think so. If I was making the decision, I'd put him right back in. I imagine Justin Braun will come in tonight for Nick Seeler. That'll move Cam York to the left side, and that juggling kind of continues. Basically, if Seeler's in the lineup, York plays the right side. If Braun's in the lineup, York's going to play the left side. But he's shown some versatility with that and the ability to play both sides. So we'll see if that's the decision tonight. And Tony DeAngelo is back in the lineup and on the ice for the Flyers against a surging Buffalo Sabres team. Lost 8 straight earlier this year and now on a bit of a run here. I think they've won 8 of their last 9. And joining us right now, he is a former Flyer goaltender. He was a former Ranger goaltender, a former Sabre goaltender, an all-around good guy. It is Martin Biron. Marty, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I see you added a few masks back there to your collection.
I got a few, not quite as spectacular as yours, though. Your collection looks stunning today.
I had to take a few down, and I had to replace them with frames because there was holes in the walls. A few of them, and this is a true story. So, I had them on an angled screw in the wall with an anchor. But over time, I bumped into them, they start to lean down. I kid you not, 2 a.m. this summer, in the middle of dead sleep. Two of them fell off, woke me up like it was an earthquake, right? So I'm like, okay, I got to remove some of them. So I had to pull some off the wall, but I like how you did yours, the mini helmets, the big helmets and everything. It looks great.
You know what I did? You know how I hang them? I use a screw into a stud, and then I use string, and I
Oh,
loop
okay.
the string around the screw, and it holds it there nice and tight, which is good for the like that one up there is held by string and stuff.
Yeah.
So but I've had that happen where they fall and you're like, you think there's an intruder. You go down there with a
Oh.
goalie stick ready to beat somebody with it.
Plus, at the bottom of the wall here behind me, you can't see it, but I had a green screen. Like when we started doing Zooms or whatever, I put up
Yeah.
a green screen behind me, and I had all these cool effect going on. It was a little wacky, but it was 3 years ago. Like it's already old school to play the green screen thing or whatever. But the case is like a metalish type of case,
Yeah.
so when it fell on it, yeah, it woke up everybody.
Yeah. It sounded like a bowling ball crashing into an aluminum siding.
Exactly what it was.
Marty, let me ask you first and foremost, about the Sabres this season, because geez, they've been kind of, a bipolar team in a little bit. They had that 8-game skid, but the play of Tage Thompson has buoyed this team. And it looks like, the pronounced rebuild that seems like it's taken an eternity, maybe turning the corner.
Well, I mean, there's a difference. We saw it last year with Don Granado as the first full season head coach with the Sabres. He was there the previous year, the pandemic year, but it was only halfway through the season. His move of Tage Thompson from the wing to the middle, the addition of Alex Stuck. So there was a lot going on last year, right? And then this year you add to that Owen Power on defense. You add Jack Quinn and JJ Petuka up front. Dylan Cousins, a year older, more experienced. There's a lot going on too, that the progression seems to be better. But I would say this: they lost 8 games in a row. Yes, they have had so many injuries on defense in what was their bad time or month of the season. They were missing Henry Jokiharju. Matthias Samuelsson was the big one. You guys all know in Philadelphia, Matthias Samuelsson, obviously son of Shell Samuelsson. He's just a common factor, and he plays such a big role in making that defense score goal. Yes, Rasmus Dahlin's fantastic. Owen Power's fantastic. But Sammy is a big glue to that. And when they lost 8 in a row, he wasn't there. So they even had to play with 5D a night in in Colorado this year, where Owen Power got hurt in his pregame warm-up, not playing soccer. He did say he likes to do soccer, but it wasn't his playing soccer time. So they had to go with 5D. So Dahlin played a ton. Samuelsson played a ton. Kel Clegg, people are going to say, who's Kel Clegg? He was in Rochester. He got called up. He's playing so well. So, yeah, I would say that the biggest factor in what was their up and down season so far, when the down happened, it's because they didn't have Matthias Samuelsson, they didn't have Jokiharju, they didn't have Lyubushkin. They were missing a lot of pieces on defense.
Marty, talk about that a little bit, because when you're missing pieces, and you mentioned, like Sammy's a glue piece, it slots everybody different. Guys that are out of the lineup. Now it pushes everybody up a notch in a lot of occasions, like with Couturier out here, or when you're missing an Owen Power there, or a Matthias Samuelsson, it puts everybody in a more elevated role. And that's a huge effect on how you kind of, stack up against an opponent when guys are playing maybe a little bit above their grade level.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. You're right.
Yeah.
And what people didn't realize, and we saw it here in Buffalo, although last season, Matthias Samuelsson, I believe, was spotted to start the season in Buffalo, and then he got hurt. And I think it was rookie camp, blocked a shot, and then missed a big chunk of the start of the season, then was in Rochester. Took him a while to get back to Buffalo. So again, it started last year, the rise of the Sabres, second half of the season. But this year, you don't have Samuelsson for a while. He signed the extension this summer, and everybody's thinking like, wow, what are the Sabres doing? This guy's played, 40 games in the NHL or 50 games in the NHL. Why are they giving him a 7-year extension? Well, that's because they knew exactly what he would bring. And at $4 million and change, already right now, it's a bargain. Yeah, it hasn't even started, and it's a bargain to know that if Sammy gives him exactly what he's doing right now, for the next 7 years, it's going to be a bargain. So
it's knowing
yeah,
your own players, right?
it's
knowing what
knowing
you
your
have
own
in a guy.
players, your
Yep.
hockey development staff and all of that, evaluating your own player. It's really important. But so with Samuelsson, usually he plays with Rasmus Dahlin, which puts Owen Power on a second pairing, and it was with Henry Jokiharju. With Samuelsson and Dahlin, they're both left-handed shots. So it's rare that you have, you don't have a lefty and a righty, but they both play either side. Like, I can't tell you which one's lefty, which one's right on the ice, because they'll switch over and they have great chemistry. But if you have other players hurt, then you can split Dahlin and Samuelsson, and then you put them on the top two pairs, and they give you stability, which was not the case early in the season, because you had Dahlin on one, you had Power on the other. Then you tried to do Dahlin and Power together to load up on the top pairing defenseman. And yes, Dahlin was good and Power was good as well, but it just didn't have the impact of Samuelsson. So now that he's back, everybody's better slotted. It makes a big difference. And really, the Sabres are healthy now, the last little bit here for the first time all year. They've got 3 extra players. They struggled to have 3 extras during the first 15, 20 games of the season. And now they have Fitzgerald, Asplund, and Enestroza as extras, and they're out. They're healthy scratches because everybody's healthy.
Marty, what is it? The rebuild in Buffalo was very pronounced. They tried to go for McDavid. They ended up with Eichel. We know everything that transpired there. That's in the rearview mirror now. They've gotten a good return, and they're a club on the rise. I mean, they're leading the NHL in goals for per games played. When you look at the average, what is it? A rebuild is something that fans have called for here in Philadelphia, a tear it down rebuild. And I think in some situations you can do that, but it depends on what kind of contracts you have. Every situation is different. Why is it that the rebuild finally hit a gear that's working now, and why didn't it work before?
Well, I mean, the rebuild started years ago. They ended
right?
up getting Dahlin and Power as first overall picks, right? But you mentioned Jack Eichel. They had drafted Sam Reinhart a few years before that. They had pieces in place. It didn't work. Number one, I don't think they hit on the coaches. They went with Phil Housley, Ralph Kruger. It didn't work. So you move on, right? You got to get a good coach to lead your team. You got to get leadership from the top. After Darcy Regier came the, Patty LaFontaine, Tim Murray thing. That didn't really work. Jason Botterill came in. I think Botterill did a really fine job with the Sabres, developing and scouting and drafting talent. He just hasn't been here to see it come together. Kevin Adams is there now. But what Kevin was willing to do, number one, he was willing to move forward by trading some pieces that were big to the Sabres. Sam Reinhart to Florida, Rasmus Ristolainen to Philadelphia. Although he probably wanted to keep Jack Eichel, the injury situation forced him to say, hey, we got to move on from Eichel. And you bring Alex Tuch. Alex Tuch's a huge piece of what the Sabres are doing right now. So, but also what Kevin Adams did is he recognized a few leadership pieces that the Sabres needed. And, re-signing Zemgus Girgensons, people are going to say, oh my goodness, this guy's been around forever in Buffalo, right? I think he's lived through all the bad years, but he has such an impact in the locker room. I even questioned the move, and now I understand why Kevin Adams did it, because of his off-ice impact, giving Calaposo the captaincy. Cal's in his last year of his deal. I don't know if he'll be here next year. I don't know if he'll be here in 2 years. But to put a C on his jersey was important to say, that's the leader everybody has to follow. Resigning Craig Anderson this year. Guy's 41 years old. Everybody's talking about, well, the Sabres need goaltending. Yeah, but it's bigger than that. It's having the right culture, the right philosophy, the right people in the locker room. And even though Anderson doesn't play a whole lot, when he's played really well.
Yeah.
So probably not going to be here in a year or two, like Calaposo, who knows how long he's going to be here. But it's making the big impact now and the small step forward. So there was some big significant moves and decision that Kevin Adams made that are going the Sabres' way now.
It's a commitment to what you're going to be, and that's the other important element when it comes to Don Granato, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. I have had Lindy Ruff in Buffalo for years as a head coach. And right now, I can say I loved Lindy Ruff. I didn't always see the same way and as or how he communicated with me, but that's more of a me issue than a him issue. But as a head coach and what he was trying to do and the longevity and still now what he's doing with New Jersey, I'm like, he is a fantastic head coach. I had Torts in New York with the Rangers. I love Torts. I love what he did. I love how he prepared us for games. I love how he left us alone, the goaltenders. Basically, it was Benny Allaire, a goalie coach, that talked to us. And I talked to Torts because I talked to everybody. But if you didn't want to talk to Torts, you didn't have to. So that's basically what it was. So the Sabres finding their man in Don Granato, and the not just the head coach, but the coaches in general, the assistant coaches, the development group, and all of that was very important. I feel like the Flyers made that same significant hire this summer, getting Torts, right? And it's about small steps for the future. Maybe Torts is not there in 2 years. Maybe he's not even there in 12 months. Maybe he's not there in 4 years when the team's going to be good. But what can he bring to the group right now, and identifying the strength, the weaknesses, and sending it on the right path, right? And I think that's why I was a big fan of the hire for Torts in Philly. And I think it's worked. It's worked. You can, second guess some decision of sitting out Kevin Hayes and, Travis Konechny and all of that. But
Tony DeAngelo last
night. You're right. Like, there's been a lot said about the moves that Torts have made. But in the end, I feel that for the benefit of the organization and the team, not the individuals, for the benefit of the team.
How does that reverberate through a locker room when a Kevin Hayes, who's leading the team in points at the time, is healthy scratched against his former team in the Rangers, or Tony DeAngelo, who was a free agent acquisition? Well, I guess he was traded for essentially and then signed this summer, is sat down for basically the last two periods. Last night was healthy scratched earlier and Konechny earlier. That's got to reverberate through that locker room that nobody is immune.
Well, yes and no. I think the players sometimes may, bitch and complain about it between themselves, but they understand that, if you are not following along with the plan, you're not going to be part of it. I've played with some fantastic players in New York that build a career from what Torts and how Torts wanted them to play. The Ryan Callahan and the Dan Girardi and Ryan McDonough and Brendan Dubinsky and Brian Boyle. I mean, those guys, you don't think that Dubinsky didn't get benched a few times? Absolutely. Brian Boyle, and Torts went at it a few times. Absolutely. That's just the way it is. But they could see the bigger picture, right? And that's what is important. And some of them, I remember Vinny Prospal, right? And Vinny got traded to Philly. I was sitting next to him in the locker room, and after a week in Philadelphia, he's like, I think I missed Torts, because he had come from Tampa. And Vinny and Torts were like, two opposites. They didn't like each other. And then Vinny came to New York because Torts was there and played for the Rangers. And it was the same thing. It was a love-hate relationship. But I think if you know, and if you can take a step back, you understand that it's not just about you, it's about everybody, but there's also that message can be coming through you, and take it. Because if you don't take it the right way, then they're going to know you're not part of the solution. You're going to be one that's going to be moved on.
Sorry to the guys out there taking out my trash right now, and his truck is quite loud if you can hear that.
Oh. I've had the summer times when they cut the grass sometimes or whatever. They come right by the bedroom window. And,
you're like, you keep hearing it. That's the thing with Torts, is kind of like having kids, where the days are long, but the years are short. And you look back on it and you go, boy, it may not have been easy playing for him. He may have been a pain in my ass at times, but he pushed me to a place where I didn't know I could get to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, Marian Gaborik, it didn't really work with Torts, but still had some really, really good, successful years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of those type of players, I would think, like the skilled players, especially, that may not see Torts in the way that he sees the game, just because it is about defending, it is about sacrificing your body. But I think what Torts has done, especially when he left Vancouver and then went to Columbus and on, is he's adjusted that there is not just one type player on a team. There's multiple types of players, and you can kind of, but the sacrifice, the dedication, the hard work has to be the same from everybody. So to me, that's been the difference. And that's why Torts is still coaching with an iron fist, but is still coaching and has been able to adapt and adjust. But you look at, last night's game for the Flyers, and he said after the game, we created. I mean, when I heard him say that, he would never have said that years ago. Because scoring goals years ago, yes, that's the end game, right? But it was all about defending. And last night he says, I thought we were good offensively. We created, just couldn't put a puck in the net. The power play didn't give us that goal, but we created, and that was good. And I'm like, wow, okay, there's a different Torts here, because he understands that the game's changing. You have to create, but he comes back to his roots and says, but man, were we bad in sticks and time and space in the defensive zone? So yeah, Flyers play Buffalo tonight. That's gonna be on display. If they don't defend, it could be a long night.
Yeah, and Buffalo's a team that can fill it up, kind of like that team we saw last night in Toronto, when you got all that offensive talent with Marner and Matthews and Nylander and obviously Tavares. And I see that Toronto team and I go, I don't wonder why that team's really good in the regular season, but I also see why they struggle in the postseason. They have all the high end pieces, Marty, but they lack the round out the roster pieces.
Well, I think they have some, and they had some over the years. Goaltending, right? Like when you don't have Freddie Anderson in the playoff healthy, and then you don't have Jack Campbell in the playoffs healthy, and then who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs this year, and if they're going to be healthy. They both have missed some time this year. I said it before the season. I think with Toronto, it's let's go with Murray and Samsonov. Let's get to the trade deadline, and let's see if there's an option out there, right? Yeah. Because they just couldn't afford it on the cap. It was a reset button. I don't think the Leafs would feel comfortable at this moment going in the playoffs with Samsonov and or Murray. So we'll see. There's still a couple of months before trade deadline, right? Early March. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, at any moment in the game last night, it felt like, well, Flyers are a goal away from maybe getting back in it. And that's the NHL this year. Number one, like the NHL is it's 1-0 after 2 periods, and everybody's thinking the under is going to cash in, and all of a sudden it's like a 7-5 end of the game, and you got 12 goals, and you're ripping your ticket in half if you bet the under. So that has been the situation a lot this year in the NHL.
Yeah, and power plays. I mean, you look at Edmonton; they're clicking at like 34%, which is an absurd number. And they're at the midway point of their season. They've played 41 games, but it's like a video game with those two guys out there, with Draisaitl and McDavid. What have you seen out of Carter this year? Have you gotten a good look at Carter? I imagine you're not going to see him tonight. You get a look at Sam Ersson tonight, but what have you seen out of Carter?
Yeah, I don't think he'll go tonight, which I like to see everybody, right? So I'm going to be happy to take a really good live look at Ersson and see what he's got to offer. With Carter, I thought early in the season, oh man, off the charts and well positioned, and nothing was going through him, and really taking a step forward. I don't know if there's fatigue in his play right now. I mean, you look at last night's game, pucks are going through him a little bit, and the one off the face-off, you watch goalies, and I was a little puzzled from his positioning on the face-off.
Depth?
So the face-off is to this, not depth, angle.
Oh, angle.
The face-off is on the left dot, and I look, his left foot is way outside the blue paint. Right? Mm-hmm. With the short crease there, the square crease, his left foot is way outside the blue paint. I'm thinking he's too far to his glove side. And sure enough, I almost feel like he tried to recover, found himself sideways. That beats him 5-0. So those to me they're not physical mistakes, they're mental mistakes, right? And I think there may be some fatigue coming into Carter right now in his game. So we'll see if that gets cleared up. there's a lot of games, right? Everybody's playing a ton of games from now until the All-Star break, and then after that it resets and it's a sprint. So you can't have those moments in games, but he's been better. There's still some part of the game that, when it comes to the athleticism now of some of these goaltenders, right? You watch Linus Solmark in Boston, very athletic, right? Big, tall, very athletic. Shesterkin and Vasilevsky over the years, even Jake Ottinger to a certain extent. There's been a lot of those type. I feel like Carter is still very compact, but it's getting there. It's hard. I mean, you're not 18 anymore to like say, okay, I'm going to really work on opening everything up. You have your set in your ways. And I'm not saying I can't be good, because Connor Hellebuck is a very compact goaltender, not athletic like the other ones. And he's had success. So I think you can still do it, but you better be precise. And I felt like there's been times in the last months where that preciseness has not been there.
Yeah, if you're slightly turned and not square, then all the physiological, the movement changes, and and on that one, on that shorty that you mentioned, it gets through him. And when you're playing catch up on a play because you didn't start in the right spot, you're almost dead to rights because you're never going to catch up.
Yeah, well, they always say, right, there's three things to goaltending. It's angle, squareness, and depth. I remember playing with Henrik Lundqvist, and his depth was deep. And I'm like, I can't do that, but I can really look at his angle and his squareness every time he's facing a shot. Now, my depth is different, but I think that the two things that the best goaltenders have, and it goes with any or every style, is angles and squareness. And that to me is not just facing a shot, it's on lateral plays. The goalies that are able to turn their hips and shoulders and their core strength turns them, and then all of a sudden you're square to the shot. Even if you're not there yet, at least you're square to react. The goalies that are like scrambling to get there and their shoulders lock and they don't turn, they're basically not able to make the saves. So they're out of the place. So squareness and angles, it goes with any style, and you better have that.
Yeah, it's rotation. You get a head shoulder turn. You got to get there and get your chest and get that logo pointed right at it. It's why sometimes a lot of the really good goalies that are efficient in movement make saves look easy because they hit them in the logo, because they can get to their spot on their edges, and then they have the full arsenal of save selection in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, rebound control. Everybody's like, oh, I remember when I was a kid, they used to test us on rebound control. They'd shoot it right at us and see where the puck goes. Well, rebound control 101 is, how are you square to the puck? Like, if you can send it to the corner, great. But the second best rebound is right in front of you because you're better positioned. And that's if you're square. If you're slightly off, it hits you, it goes 10 feet to the left. That is the worst place to be, right? Because now it's somebody jumping on an open net. So for me, rebound control all has to do with squareness. And we talked about mental. The big thing with Carter this year, and I'm an equipment freak and geek and whatever, it's changed, from True or CCM before to now Brian's. You see goalies around the league, and Jack Campbell is one of them, struggling to find a rhythm, went from Vaughn to Brian's. When I see a goaltender that changes gear, I always say it's going to take some time, because it's not just your natural physical ability. It's becoming a whole aspect with the mental side of the game and being, 100% there. So I think the start of the season was really good for Carter Hart. I think right now we're seeing just, okay, you're reverting to some maybe old habits. And that comes when you're fatigued, when you're physically and mentally fatigued, it comes back. It's pushing through right here, be able to get that out of the way.
Yeah, the new equipment and different equipment hangs on you different. Your rest points are different. Where you put your hands when you just want to crouch down and rest. You go, oh, you're slipping. You're going, wait a minute, my other pads, it was right here.
Even new pads, the same pads, but new ones feel different for that. So
it drives you crazy. And I almost feel like whenever I put new pads on, it was way more exhausting.
Well, it is the first practice with new equipment. Even
You're
if
so
it's just
tired.
stance or chest and arm, you're so tired.
Oh,
I remember having that conversation with Lundqvist. He was debating, should I go with my new gear? Should I stick with the old one? I'm like, how do you feel? He goes, I feel huge in the new gear because you feel bigger because the
yeah.
pads are straight and you're square and the gloves and
Stiffer.
whatever. And he's like, but I feel a little slower and I'm exhausted. So I'm like, but what about the other one? And he goes, the other one, I feel small, but I feel quick.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, that's a tough predicament to be in because
Yeah.
it's 50-50. I don't remember what he went with, but that's the feeling when you go with new equipment or when you have a new set of equipment in season. Now they take 1 day, 2 days, they boom right into it.
Yeah, they snap into
completely different.
Yeah, and the chesty was the worst thing to change, wasn't it?
I
hated
wore
it.
the same chesty forever. I wore the same pants forever. Like you're not touching the midpoint. Like, okay, I'll go new pads, I'll go new gloves,
Yep.
whatever.
No problem.
Even
Mask.
the knee pads, I hate it. I got a new pair of knee pads late, maybe my second or third last year. And it was such a tough adjustment just because they slipped a little bit different. They would press on the wrong part of my knee. I had to add some foam and they had the rush burn, like all of that, like knee pads. Come on, people. Like, it should be easy, but no, it was totally different.
Yeah. And the chesty too. Like last year I was still wearing an iTech chesty.
Oh boy.
They haven't even made those in 20 years.
No. Well, at least you didn't mention like a DNR or Jofa, so that's good. iTech was a little better. So
I have a DNR jock, the yellow or the orange and black one.
Yeah, well, that's an old one.
Yep, it's like a Mike Tyson boxing jock. It's like it covers your whole entire like bladder.
So that's
and everything.
The one that was like a full foam, right? Like,
yeah.
It was like there was no like material covered it. It was just a full shiny like foam. Yeah,
yep,
right.
And
I
you
remember
stepped
that.
into it. Yeah, I don't wear that one anymore, but I have that still.
Yeah. Well.
Oh man, Marty, this is awesome, man. I love talking to you. We got to get you on again.
Yes.
Best of luck with the Sabres. Not tonight, but best of luck with the Sabres, and we appreciate the time.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this question on the way out. I mean, for the Flyers, it's not going to be playoffs this year. But who would you rather have in the playoffs? The Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins, or the Buffalo Sabres? I'm asking a Flyer like fan base right now. You don't want to see the Pittsburgh and the Islanders in the playoffs. You want the Sabres in the playoffs. So if you have to sacrifice a game tonight for Buffalo to get closer to Pittsburgh and the Islanders, well, sacrifice it.
Okay, so you help the Sabres get to the playoffs, and I love the fan base up there is so deserving. They always support not only the Sabres, but the league so well. You see it in the ratings for Stanley Cup playoffs, even when they're not in it. But the other part of that is, so we help the Sabres knock out the Penguins and the Islanders, which we love, and it helps the Flyers get closer to Bedard.
Okay, yes, that's a win-win situation.
Well, we have come to an agreement. We should be politicians. Maybe the countries would run better.
Yes. I don't know that I want to go into politics. I'm good where I'm at, but you're more than welcome to do what you want to do.
No thanks. Marty, we'll talk soon, man. Thanks, brother.
Thank you. Have a good one.
There he is, Martin Biron, joining us on this episode of Bet Parks Presents Stick to Hockey Live. He's awesome. I love talking to him. Oh, man, so fantastic. Flyers Sabres tonight, and we will talk about that on Wednesday. Flyers play on Wednesday as well against the Washington Capitals, a home and home. So we'll be dealing with that as well. Let me tell you about Bet Parks. Fantastic casino and sportsbook app. Now's the time to get it. Log on and check it out. All the easy ways to bet on there, from same-game parlays, live in-game betting, player performances, you name it. Grab the Bet Parks app today and get in on the action, whether it's football, whether it's got basketball, college or pro, hockey, baseball, not far off. You can bet the futures, player performances. Get on the Bet Parks app today. You do need to be over 21 and present in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, that wraps up episode 40 of Bet Parks Presents Stick to Hockey Live. We're back Wednesday. Anthony DeMarco will join us. So check us out then on a brand new episode of Bet Parks Presents Stick to Hockey Live. Have a great day, everybody.